In 2016, David Ayer, director of flops as big as The Tax Collector and Bright, directed another film with Will Smith.
Oh, that's hot.
Another big names such as Margot Robbie and Jared Leto, called The Suicide Squad. And to the majority of DC fans, it wasn't hot. But I like bad movies. I'm a known lover of the Boss Baby franchise, so I thought it was excellent. This also means you should take everything I say about this movie with a minivan-sized rock of salt. After reading the entirety of the New 52 Suicide Squad, I was looking for anything else from the series to flop my eyeballs on. Now I do know this movie has its fair share of flaws. The Resident Evil 5-esque goop monsters are a strange choice, and one of the best parts of the comic series was never knowing who was going to die next or unexpectedly show their face again. And these themes were highly lacking in the movie. But the soundtrack was full of bangers, the action had some great moments, and we got a Batfleck cameo, so that makes for a 5-star film in my book. So now that everyone has quit watching because of my garbage opinions, the Suicide Squad has now had multiple appearances in DC media between the 2016 movie, a few episodes of Arrow, an animated movie, and the new James Gunn film. Although the team is nearly non-existent in the games department, apart from the LEGO franchise and the upcoming Rocksteady game. But the Suicide Squad did have one other game, on the platform that leads the licensed game front in the modern day. The number of mobile comic book games is in the millions, with more developed every day, and they cover games of every shape and size. Puzzle games, fighters, endless runners, but oddly enough, the Suicide Squad went with a different route. And that's why I'm so interested to talk about the Suicide Squad Special Ops. The Suicide Squad Special Ops was a mobile, survival, wave-based first-person shooter developed by a company called Tailspin that I can find zero information on. In my search, I came across a couple websites for a company of the same name that develops AI and VR software, but no mention of Special Ops or even games at all. I did find evidence that the game is playable through Samsung Gear VR, but also found no trace of that in the game itself. Special Ops was released in 2016 alongside the movie and takes place during the Battle of Midway City. It features character models based off the likenesses from the actors in the movie, and oddly enough, look kinda good. Upon starting the game, you'll play as Deadshot for a tutorial portion that quickly transitions into the main game. The gameplay is your basic mobile game FPS style. A virtual stick to move with a crazy aim assist that auto-shoots when an enemy is in line with your crosshair. The only actual buttons you'll be pushing are for each of the character's special attacks that charge over time. And sadly, this is the only option. 2016 was well before almost every controller was supported by iPhones, so touch controls is the best you get. I would assume this mysterious VR version has some type of controller support, unless all the movement is done by leaning. I did at least attempt to connect a PS4 controller, but the only thing that registers is selecting to play the game, so you can use a PS4 controller to stand still and shoot enemies directly in front of you. On the character front, they don't give you a lot of squad, but you do get the choice at the beginning of each round to pick from the 3 characters you would actually want to play as: Deadshot, Harley Quinn, and El Diablo. Each of the 3 team members has their own set of weapons that makes you play a little differently. Deadshot has a machine gun that can quickly mow down foes from a decent range, while also having 2 wrist-mounted semi-auto guns with unlimited ammo but low power. Harley has her classic bat from the movie that is a one-hit kill in the early rounds, but on the downside, requires getting up close and personal. So you'll want to only use this on enemies that have strayed from the herd because it's easy to get swarmed. Even though Harley is all power, she's not great for crowd control, with her other weapon being a Magnum that only holds 6 shots, so if you choose to use it, it's best to keep your distance. Diablo, unlike the other 2, only has 1 weapon, and it's his power to shoot flames out of his hands. You can't run out of fire, but after long amounts of continuous flames, he has to cool down his hands. This is important to keep in mind when taking on large hordes. As mentioned before, each anti-hero has a special ability used by pressing the face icon on the right side of the screen. Deadshot's ability allows you to use either gun in a Max Payne style slow-mo mode to take out more targets. Harley's ability uses her bat to lunge far distances at any enemy in her crosshair. And Diablo's ability allows him to bust out a ring of fire around him to take out a mass amount of enemies when getting swarmed. The enemy types vary as the rounds progress, starting with the basic goop monsters that can only do melee combat, then moving to ones that can use guns, and slowly adding tank enemies with chain guns, or ones that can jump high and move fast with a giant hammer, and a huge guy with explosive tankers that blow up if you get near them. As you play through the rounds, more and more of these tanks will spawn to the point where sometimes over half the round is just tanks. Every few rounds a new section of the map will unlock, starting with the City Square section, then moving to City Hall, a big square with an outer edge and a central center area. Later moving to the subway, which is a long tight space with not a lot of room to escape, but is great for starting a single file line to mow down. The next is the street, which like the starting area is out in the city, but is only one straight strip down the road with cars parked throughout to get stuck on. The last area is technically a part of the street, but the alley is really just a gate that opens allowing access to the main city starting area, basically ending in a big circle. Some downed enemies will drop health to keep a character going a little longer. Ammo crates are also scattered throughout the map but only have limited amount of ammo in them, and will disappear after each is emptied for the rest of the round, so shoot wisely. Some round starts also spawn a power-up crate that gives you the option to pick between two upgrades, like max health and reload speed. These crates are only available for a limited time and spawn in random locations, so you'll have to hope it spawns nearby. After unlocking each area, you're free to go to any part of the map to keep racking up points until each of the three characters meets their demise. Once a character dies, they're out for the remainder of the game, and you are forced to pick a different character for the remainder of that round. This doesn't mean you can use that character again at the start of the next round though. No revives are available at any point, so in total you get 3 lives to last as long as you can, which for me happened to be 12 rounds. Special Ops is surprisingly way more fun than it has any right to be. It might even be more entertaining than the movie was. Great to leave open to do little sessions here and there while waiting around, but the major downside, other than lack of controller support, is the lack of download support. The game was delisted from both the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store at some point, so it's only available to download if you've already downloaded it before. Otherwise, the only means of getting your hands on it is through a third-party store or an APK download, which I legally think I'm supposed to tell you not to do. You're really out of luck if you're an iPhone user like me, because this is a 32-bit app, and with the launch of iOS 14, all 32-bit apps are unusable. If you try to boot the game, you'll be greeted with a message that says you'll need to update the game to make it compatible. Luckily, some of us are bad guys and robbed their wife at gunpoint for their old phone that runs iOS 11 to make videos like this one possible.
We're bad guys. It's what we do.
So if you're a bad guy like me, do what we do and hit that subscribe button. I'm sorry, go play Suicide Squad.